Welcome back to Linux Weekly, daily Wednesdays where we sit back, relax, take that midweek break, talk about some of the fun things going on in the world of Linux and open source. I'm Vince Stone, joined every week by Jill, Brian, and everybody watching us live here on Twitch. How's it going? We got a little bit to talk about. Some we were talking about in the pre-show, though. In the pre-show, it's the holiday season. I'm like, oh, we're heading into it. And I'm like, no, man, we're right in the middle of it. Tech news and holidays do not go together at all. Never have, never will. We did manage to find a couple of things to talk about this week. Something that got me really excited. We're talking about it on Linux Gamecast. Myself, Jordan, and Pedro. I was having a little argument with Jordan about it, actually. Pedro was just watching us have our little argument about the Intel Battlemage because there was a leaked Battlemage B580 last week, like a box. Like, it's a real thing. It's coming out. It could come out in time for Christmas. Like, what does Intel have to do? And this is the new GPU from Intel. We've already had Alchemist. I did that little video. Thanks, Arthur, and picking that up on the wish list. That A310. But Battlemage is going to be the fixed version, we hope. And like, how does Battlemage get into the market? Because this is going to be a 12 gig card. And the B580 is, the mid-range card.
Yeah.
We're talking, like, how did they get market share? Like, do you think they could get like $400 for it? And I'm like, maybe they can do like $350. And I was joking around. I said, what if they make it $280? What if they just walk in and like just bill of materials and they did it again? And what Jordan and I were arguing about, because they kind of did that with ARC, the A770 founders, like they were silly cheap because they didn't have that markup on them because Intel was trying to get some market share. And me and Jordan were going back and forwards last week because Jordan was like, rightfully so. He's like, I don't think they can afford to take that hit again. I'm like, I kind of feel that Intel has to. Like, they still have to. And that's a hard thing to tell the investors, right? You're like, we just got to get hosed on these things again, man. Good news, everybody. Intel's getting hosed on these things again. The B580 is coming out at $250. That's a 12 gig card, $250.
Yay.
Maybe in time for Christmas.
I had a feeling Intel might do the right thing.
That's not the right thing. They're doing it because they got to.
Yeah.
Not they don't want to. Now, this is going to shake things up.
It is, absolutely.
Are you excited about it, Jill?
I actually am because, I have an Intel Arc A770 and I do love it, especially on Linux. Every time there's a new Mesa update, the card just gets better and better.
What you been up to? Turkeytron, you get to go do that?
Yes. So yes, I do want to say first before I show something, happy Thanksgiving tomorrow to everyone here in the United States. It's a big day of feasting or a big weekend in me and my Steve husband's case, because we do like 2 to 3 Thanksgivings over the holiday weekend, which is always really nice. But to celebrate, look at this. This is my new novelty pink sippy cup shaped like a turkey to celebrate.
What Jill's holding up right now is a diseased flamingo.
Oh, it's so cute. I know. I was wondering why it was pink, but I like that it's pink and turquoise. I think it was supposed to be like the 60s modern colors. Look at that. It's
so we got to talk about Google Chrome.
Yeah.
Because there was a little bit of I'm like the DOJ is like, you might need to do something. Here's some recommendations, right?
Yeah. So if you haven't heard, this is big news for Google. The U.S. Department of Justice is calling for Google to sell its Chrome web browser. Ooh, this is serious business. This is actually part of the antitrust case that was started when the court ruled that Google held an illegal monopoly on online search back in August that we talked about here on LWDW. And to me, this has good positives and negatives. As I was thinking about it, with Google Chrome out of Google's hands, web browsers like Firefox, Safari, and Edge could gain significant market share. I think it might both be a good thing and maybe not so good thing for Firefox. It just depends on how everything pans out and if it actually happens. And new web browsers might also emerge, offering new features and innovation, or make web browsers in the works, like the open source Ladybird web browser that we have talked about here on LWDW, come to fruition and make it easier for them to join the market. And, this story is actually still developing, and the final outcome of the DOJ lawsuit and the fate of Chrome are still uncertain. So I'm curious how this is going to pan out. That's for sure. Major news.
Something you want to think about. Like I said, it's a slow news week, slow news month, and that's not just from us. It's from the tech industry, because this is so far out in the future.
Downtime. Yeah.
Because basically, this is just a proposal from the DOJ. This is all this is. They're like, we think it would be a good idea if you took our suggestions about what we should do here. And it's not the only thing, because the judge is going to have to consider these arguments next year. Consider them. Not do anything about them. Just got to take a look at them. And, Google, old Googs, that little small indie startup has come out and they're like, we're going to appeal this. And like, of course they are. So there's also another proposal. It's not just Chrome. Another thing the DOJ, not many people are talking about, and they're like, how about Android? You want to get rid of Android too? Like we can just make you sell yourself off for parts. And the way I'm looking at it, and like we won't know anything. Like we don't expect any action. Like 5 years, 7 years, maybe a decade later, maybe something will get done. When the legal process is done legally. Now, if Google sells off Chrome, there's still a problem though. Chrome still exists. Chrome doesn't go away. The Chrome market share doesn't go down. Does it?
No. Not really.
Like we're not getting rid of Chrome. We're like, well, it'll help. I'm like, well, Chrome's not going anywhere. I'm like, oh, you know who really doesn't like this idea?
Yeah.
Who's not a fan?
This is
not a fan of Google being forced to sell off Chrome. A little company called Mozilla.
Yeah.
Mozilla's like, that's a horrible idea. Chrome should stay with Google. Why? Because they don't lose that money.
Yeah.
That's all it boils down to. Because, they get that check every year, which is like 80% of their operating revenue over the Mozilla Foundation. And so that kind of shows you, of course, they say it will, the Firefox developers say it will take crucial revenue away from smaller companies with lucrative Google search deals. And that's kind of what, to the point of it being kind of a monopoly. Like Google has been like, writing these checks to small, like Mozilla and other things, projects, just to like kind of fend this off.
Yeah, and keep the competition going. Yeah.
It's by giving them money.
Yeah.
Like, exactly. If you dial it back earlier this year, so a lot of people don't like what I got to say, but I'm not wrong a lot. Firefox is not really incentivized to make a browser that destroys Google. Like, if 80% of your money is coming from Google and Chrome, you don't want to bite that hand now, do you?
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
Why is that such a crazy thing to put out? They're like, you're clearly pro. Like, I'm not pro or against anything, man. I'm not. I switched to using Firefox this week on all my Android devices. I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you did.
Doesn't make any difference to me. I'm going to use the best tool for the job because I got stuck in whatever A/B experiment that Google was doing with Google Chrome, man, to where every time I opened Google Chrome on any of my mobile devices, Chrome was opening a new tab.
Mm-hmm.
Had the tab that I had open that I left there, and it was just, and it, I don't know, rationally or irrationally, just drove me insane.
Yeah.
And I've been dealing with this for months, and there's no way to disable it. I've Googled it, and like, this has happened before, and it will all happen again, according to the internet. And like, oh yes, this has happened before, and like, there's nothing you could do. There's no settings, and I hate that. Firefox Beta is what I've installed. Why? Because Firefox Beta on tablets have browser tabs are back instead of that stupid little box that you got to hit and go to a separate page with the tabs. And I'm like, why? So, yeah, at the end of the day, do I want to see Google like shaken down, broken up? Yeah, I do. Will it happen in any meaningful way. I don't know. Like, just share on. It's a weird thing, though, isn't it, Joe? Like, you don't want to see Mozilla get hurt any more than it is.
No, absolutely not.
Oh, yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know.
I really don't think it's fair that the DOJ wants Chrome also to sell Android. That's their operating system.
Well, that's Google.
So I understand
Here you go, Jill.
about the web browser more.
Check this out. This is how we get fuchsia.
Yeah, finally.
Finally. This is it. This is the thing that makes Google finally admit that fuchsia's real. And they can release it. Like, I understand all the arguments, and like me and you were old enough to remember when Microsoft got shaken down, right? And split up.
Oh yeah. Internet Explorer versus Netscape all over again.
That whole thing and the court trials and what came, like, here we are, almost 30 years later, Microsoft back together, man.
Yeah. I know.
I don't know. I don't know. But yeah, like, we need something. Like, I'm with like team like Ladybird and all the other projects coming in, because I've been thinking about that a lot recently. Is like, we desperately need something other than Google or something Chromium based, or just whatever Firefox is cooking. Because give me a browser again doesn't come with any strings attached to it. Just a web browser.
I know.
Let's just go back to running Netscape Communicator 4.
Yeah.
It was a simpler time.
Oh, you can run SeaMonkey then. That's one of my favorite web browsers.
Yeah, you could do like SeaMonkey. What is like the W3 browser that comes with like, I like going to a modern website with those things and just watching everything fall apart. Well, none of that works. We just go back to using links, man.
Yeah, and e-links.
It was a interesting time. Like, everything's changed, man. Somebody was talking about like surfing the web. Like, that used to be something you could do because there was stuff out there. You could discover stuff. Now stuff is just getting siloed, and like the charm and discovery of it is just like gone. You remember like web rings and all that?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
yeah, web rings. Bring that back.
You would talk to people and like share websites. Like, hey, have you heard about this cool site? And just not a thing anymore. All right, so get off our lawns. Let's talk about Firefox, though, because there was some good news. 133 has been released with faster access to tabs and other. What's going on there, Jill?
Oh, boy. So, this is exciting. So, Firefox 133 was just released, and it has cool new features, the usual user interface improvements, and bug fixes to our favorite open source web browser. And a feature that I have been using quite a bit on Firefox is the tab overview menu located on the top right of the browser. Well, now you can view your Firefox tabs on other devices. This is awesome. Other devices like phones, tablets, and other computers, as long as you're signed in to your Firefox account on those devices. And it works really well. I tested it yesterday. And there is actually a new anti-tracking feature called Bounce Tracking Protection, which is available in the Enhanced Tracking Protections Strict Mode area. Bounce tracking is actually another common type of tracking that the Mozilla Firefox release states. This feature detects bounce trackers based on their redirect behavior and periodically purges their cookies and site data to block tracking. So that's always a good thing. And I'm really happy that Firefox is focusing on the user experience on Firefox with this release, especially. It's really great. And also for us Linux users, the Firefox Flatpak can once again open files from the open file command in the file menu. I had discovered this not too long ago. I usually don't install the Firefox Flatpak, but I did run it to test it, and I noticed that I couldn't open files. Something so simple, but that has been fixed now. And cool thing is on Wayland, the page navigation with the Alt key combo works now, which is awesome for those of us that use Wayland. So lots of great features for us Linux users and for every Firefox on every OS.
Why would you install Firefox with a Flatpak?
Well, I was testing it.
No, not you. Why would anybody do
it? Why would anyone? Yeah, you might as well just, install the deb or the the tarball or whatever.
I'm genuinely curious. Like, let me know in the comments. Like, if you get other than like, well, that was the thing that it said to install it with. Like, that's a perfectly valid explanation. I'm not giving you a hard time. I'm just genuinely curious. Now, one thing I like to do, because we have a very Linux focused thing on a show called Linux Weekly Daily Wednesday. And a big surprise. But I like to go over to Firefox, our Firefox on Reddit, and take a look. I'm like, what are the like Windows users' takes? Because every take matters, because Firefox is down to like 2% market share. We're all friends. There's no more of like Firefox on Linux or Windows. Like, no, we all need to come together here. Two big things that I saw repeated in that entire thread were like two things that I normally want. One is HDR support. Apparently that's not a thing yet on Firefox on Windows.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely not a thing on Linux. And another thing is web USB, which I want to look into. And why is that? Somebody's going to pop off in the comments and like, here's why this is a big deal. Web USB sounds very fascinating. That's something Firefox is lacking support on as well. So, I mean, it's good. It's good that they're working in the browser, doing browser stuff. The tab thing, that
nice.
It's one of those things that, like, when, being able to sync tabs between devices or just like right click and like send to device, like, it's cool that it's there, but I never use it.
Oh, okay. Whereas I'm using that a lot now. Now I can on Firefox.
I just don't use it. Like, I mean, it's been a thing on Chrome forever.
Yeah.
It's like, and I was like, oh, we're living in the future. And I'm like, yeah, it's a future where you don't use that feature at all. I'm like, oh, that's fair. It's the same thing as like, but I guess like the one time you need it, it's a good thing it's there, right?
Yeah.
Because, like being able to install Android apps from your desktop on multiple devices, right? Like, that still fascinates me. I love being able to be like, oh, right, I meant to install that, and I can just pull up all my Android devices from a drop-down menu from the Play Store and go, yeah, install it to that one. Done. And it's there. So, yeah, good job, everybody. Yeah, what?
Yeah, and then the Firefox Flatpak, I just realized where I was testing it on. The Steam Deck, of course, because I use that almost on a daily basis. You go. And they use Flatpaks. So that's a good place. That was where I initially discovered that I couldn't open a file.
Like, speaking of like containerized apps, man, like earlier this week on Mastodon, like in one of the searches, somebody accidentally tried to install Steam using the snap package.
Oh.
They were like, never do this. This is horrible. It exploded and broke all kind of things. I'm like, well, I guess that still needs some work. All right. So let's talk about retro laptops. Vintage laptops, old hardware. People like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they
absolutely.
Do. I guess they do. All right. For some bizarre reason, Linux Mint does not ship with XFCE as its default desktop manager. Instead, we have XFCE at home, aka Cinnamon. This gentleman, Fergus O'Sullivan, needed something a bit lighter for his netbook masquerading as an actual laptop. Now, Cinnamon absolutely has some visual whiz-bang that can bring your retro laptop to a crawl, but Mr. Fergus discovered that you don't need to switch distributions in order to change that desktop manager. On Mint, it's as simple as installing the Ubuntu desktop meta package and just watching things go burr, which is good. And think about this. If it's such a game changer and it's so simple to install XFCE, which is in Ubuntu desktop and Mintland, think about what it can do for your main PC. And that's one of the many reasons it's the only desktop manager that I run. Joe Brian, I thought this was good. Now, I have not used Cinnamon in forever.
I actually like Cinnamon a lot. That's one of my favorite things about Linux Mint. But they have their, the XFCE version as well. But if you've installed the Cinnamon version, it's easy to switch over to XFCE.
Or any other
and
desktop manager.
and any other desktop. Yeah. So I
This-
wanted to.
And I don't say this to be mean to anybody. I've had I saw the eyes like expand a little bit further when I say you can install any desktop manager you want. They go, wait, what?
Yeah.
Wait,
yeah.
what?
They don't realize that they can install
I thought I had to install
multiple.
a spin, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, isn't it a better experience if I install the spin? No, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can do what I do, and I always install Window Maker and Fluxbox, and I occasionally even dabble in Rat Poison. But the XFCE is really nice because it has a nice balance between performance, features and ease of use. So it's powerful enough to customize it, but it's easy to use. So, and it fits kind of in between that, a full bigger desktop like GNOME and a really memory efficient one like Window Maker. That's takes more knowledge to configure it. But I love XFCE. I like to call it Rodentia Desktop because of the little mouse that's on the screen when you boot it. So cute.
I like it. It gets the job done. I've been using it for a long time, and I don't use it because I have I use what works best for my situation. And if you haven't played around with it, now for me, it's great. Now, for whatever reason you decide to you can only run Wayland, don't bother in installing it because it doesn't work with Wayland. It's going to be a long time before it works with Wayland.
Yeah.
And,
well, it runs via X-Wayland, but that's what I'm using right now. In fact, I'm on XFCE
so
right now.
So if you want to slow down XFCE, run it with X-Wayland.
Yeah.
Because that somehow makes sense. Don't run it with a Wayland, kids. Trust me on this. You want to do a full X11 stack, get that maximum speed compatibility. Why? Because more often than not, if you're running XFCE, you're in the business of getting stuff done. It's great for workstations. It's great for serious desktop work. It's out of your way. It doesn't try to give you that warm embrace of GNOME or KDE. There's no centralized nonsense and flashy windows and anime. No, it's all business. That mouse just shows up in a suit and tie and it gets straight to work. That's it. There's no dragons or what's the GNOME mascot? Is it still a foot, Jill?
It's still a foot.
That foot don't know a thing about business, man. That foot's just out there partying every night, man.
Well, the Linux Mint theming on XFCE is really nice. I mean, it looks almost just like the Cinnamon one when you boot it.
I hate that.
But if you do the vanilla XFCE 4 and you install that from the command line in Linux Mint, then you get the vanilla experience XFCE.
And you know what? I don't even like the vanilla. The default layout drives me insane because if you look at my desktop, first thing you'll notice on my desktop, there's nothing on my desktop. Everything's auto hidden. It's just canvas, right? I got a launchers at top, what I got open. And at the bottom, it looks like CDE because I grew up with CDE. And that's how I like my little block down there with the applications that I typically use on the workstation. And I'm done with it. So I get a little fancy. I've added a clock and I've even added a screenshot application. But anything outside of that, strictly business. All the way down. So moral of the story, if you got some older hardware.
Yeah.
That's struggling. Yeah. Just try it out. You can always switch back. There's at the end of the day, no matter what you run, we could still hang out. We could still be friends because I genuinely do not care what desktop manager you're running.
Yeah.
I just want to hear about your experiences with whatever you choose.
Yeah.
Yeah. So good news, everybody. The Compute Module 5 is out and we're not covering it because I don't have time to take a look at it.
Yeah.
Instead,
It dropped this morning.
Yeah, right. I was talking in the pre-show. I had a company from the UK that makes carrier boards for the compute. I was like, can you still buy? Is it still difficult to get a hold of the Compute Module 4? Because they're like, hey, we have a carrier board. We'd love you to take a look at it on Interfacing Linux. And I wrote them back. I'm like, are you sending me a CM4 with it? And they're like, well, and I'm like, bye. So I'm curious, hopefully the CM5 will be available. I don't know. This most definitely will, though. This is the Pi Pico 2W on sale right now. Look, MicroPython. I think I managed to get that installed on the Rasda. Nobody's told me whether or not I succeeded, but it looked like I did. So this is the RP2350, but with more wireless. It's got 15% higher CPU clock speed, double the RAM, less power usage, and the new cores can deliver double the performance of the Raspberry Pi 2040, which was on the Rasdax 4, depending on the workload. So there's some wiggle room in there. Really, the only downside of this, and I'm not going to say it's a downside. Okay, you know what? I'm going to say it's a downside.
Mhm.
Micro USB. Micro USB.
Not USB-C yet, but
Yes,
maybe in the
as
next
Jill said, which is
version.
code for not USB-C.
Yeah.
How are you at home? Because I'm going to say this year was the year that I'm officially over the threshold. Because when we change cables, right?
Yeah.
You got that
Yeah.
backlog and like everything was, USB, mini USB before that. And now the micro USB was like, well, everything's micro USB. Then I had to go out and start buying USB-C cables and everything started charging with that and plugging in.
Yeah.
Now I'm at the point where I have more USB-C cables.
Same here, man.
I have to go dig up one of these cables, man.
Yeah.
Or order one. I don't want to do that. Now, the reason
How
they do
old
that
school.
is the micro USB is cheaper, and
Yeah.
these things are made to a price
It
point.
is.
So, like, you get it. I'm just being fussy about it. It's no
Yeah.
big deal. You get a little adapter. You're fine
And
with it.
it's a little smaller, and maybe they would have to completely, of course, retool the board to use C.
Well, you can. It's just a connector. You don't have to do anything.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, you can. Oh boy, this is a slap fight I have to have with people. Just trying to help them out. Not trying to be right on the internet, but you'll see audio interfaces have USB-C on the back. They're all
Mhm.
USB 2.
Yeah, they all are. Yeah.
That's USB 2 with a USB-C connector. So the reason, when you're dealing, how expensive is this thing, Joe?
Oh gosh, it's only $7, and it's only $2 more than the original
All right.
Raspberry Pi Pico 2 without wireless.
So, they're trying to save every penny they can, right?
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. I understand.
Yeah.
I'd rather it be like $7 and not like, $8.25 or whatever they ended up having to.
Yeah, it could be that USB-C change
Or
would make
what?
it
Maybe
$1
they're
more.
just like, we just had a box laying in the back, man. We're just going to use what we already got, which makes sense too, right? Because all the Pi Zeros and the Zero Ws are all
Yeah.
still micro USB.
Yeah.
That's cool. I don't know. Again, the only thing I've played around with is the 2040 itself. And as I said during that Rasda video, go back and watch that if you want over on Interfacing Linux, is I think I managed to install CircuitPython, but I'm not even 100% on that. I ran a command. I went to, Adafruit, and they're like, here's how you do this. I'm like, copy, paste, copy. I was that person. And it looked like it did because it changed the thing to say it had CircuitPython. And I've just never done anything with a GPIO on a Raspberry Pi. Don't have anything that complex, but it's a really cool, powerful device, and it's wireless.
It sure is.
So,
Yeah.
very, very nice update
Mm-hmm.
from Raspberry Pi.
Very nice. We're getting so much great stuff from the Raspberry Pi Foundation.
Since we're here, let's just go ahead and take a look at this. $45 for the CM5. Can I buy it?
Mhm.
Does it exist? Where? Where do I buy it? Oh, nice little board.
Oh, nice
Little
cooler.
cooler. Antenna kit. All right, I'm down. We're gonna buy it.
Candy
Product.
kit? Let's see. Pie shop.
Anyway, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to do it for today's show. Thanks for showing up and partying with us. If you
Yeah.
want to come hang out in our Discord, you want to get like the live and uncut versions of this show, you want to get access to the show notes as I put together a show during the week. You're like, hey, I got some suggestions, or I just got a hot take on a thing that I want you to talk about. You can do that by becoming one of our patrons over at patreon.com/Linux Gamecast. That's how we do the show. Self-host the show, like real self-host the show. Don't worry about anybody mining your data, keeping us loud, live, and of course, independent. Patreon.com/Linux Gamecast. And your name will end up in the credits that are about to roll.
They sure are. And thank you once again to our advisor, Artherin. And our executive producers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Ian, Eshep, K.R. Ducky, drummer, our Chicago Kicks people, Glorious Egg Roll, Basil, Empty, Casiclism, our Sea Monster, System T, I have a hard time reading the blue, our Death Notes, and to our Chairlings. And you guys are all wonderful, and I can never say everyone's name at
and
the
just
end
remember,
credits.
you need to join at a
watch
sea monster level, and you'll be invisible to Jill. It'll be like a T-Rex, based on movement. Like the color blue, she can't read. So there you go.
Blue is on black.
Ladies
it's hard for
and
me to read.
gentlemen, boys and girls, have fun. Get out there, do something fun, interesting, challenging, or not. I'm not your boss, but we can still hang out. See you next week.
Bye, everyone. Love you all. Yay, event.
We did it.